Good Tuesday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock. Time for Sports4CLE. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. Plenty of Browns to talk about a little later in the show. Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily will join us, talk plenty of Browns. And we begin by talking Browns. Let's welcome in Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, Kay Cabot. Kay, OTAs underway again, round 2 this week. What do the Browns want to get done in this second set of organized team activities, do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, I know that Kevin Stefanski is so incredibly happy to have his guys all together for OTAs, getting a jump on this season, even getting a jump on the minicamp. I mean, when they show up for minicamp this year, it's not going to be like it was last year, where it's the first time the offense is running through these plays and doing installation. They are there working really, really hard. The attendance is tremendous, and they are getting their timing down with Deshaun Watson. So all of it is really good. I know the coaching staff is absolutely loving it. And now, of course, they will have David Njoku back in OTAs.
Well, you mentioned that. They worked through that long-term deal. It's now done. David Njoku took to social media to kind of let everybody know he's thrilled to be part of the Browns organization for the long term, loving the fans. And you see David Njoku wanted to be here. They worked it out. This is a guy, Kay, and we'll get into it a little bit more deeper, but this is a guy that made it clear he wanted to get the long-term deal done with the Browns. They were able to find a way to make it work for both sides.
Yes, absolutely. And, it was something that both sides really wanted to get done. David Njoku has come a long, long way since he asked to be traded before last season, or before the 2020 season, and actually during that season. So he's come a long way since then, and now this is where he wants to be. This is where he would like to finish out his career, and he is now the Browns' #1 tight end, and he really has an opportunity to, I think, double his production.
Yeah, I'm with you, and it's kind of interesting. Nationally, people are kind of questioning it. This from sportscasting.com, Browns made another boneheaded decision, dramatically overpaying tight end David Njoku, and they subtweet something from Spot Track, which is really interesting. And keep in mind, a lot of that guaranteed money is the Deshaun Watson contract, but including the $28 million guaranteed for Njoku, Browns have now handed out $363 million of guaranteed dollars this offseason, $115 million more than any NFL team. Let's take a look at that part of it, and we'll get into it a little bit deeper. But Andrew Berry has been really good about being ahead of the curve. Look back as recent as the trade for Amari Cooper, picking up $20 million option, and that market blew up. This organization under Andrew Berry seems to have a very good idea of where things are going, and the price for any NFL franchise position long term, it isn't getting any cheaper. It's only going to go up.
Right. And as you mentioned, the contract for Deshaun Watson is what is driving those numbers up to where they are right now. They've done a really good job of working with their cap and getting everyone down to a nice low cap number for this year so that they can keep this team together. And then they just kind of keep moving the chess pieces around until they find a way to make it work for them. So they always seem to have enough money to do what they want to do. They've been very, very smart about the cap. I mean, obviously this year they don't have Jarvis Landry anymore. They don't have J.C. Treader anymore. They don't have Odell Beckham Jr. anymore. So those are some big numbers that are not on the cap anymore, and it gave them an opportunity to go out and to trade for an Amari Cooper, to trade for a Deshaun Watson, and to do all of the other things that they have done, to extend Denzel Ward, to extend or to sign David Njoku to his blockbuster contract. So they know what they're doing on the cap side of things. There's no doubt about that.
And when you look at it, I know a lot of people, if you're not in favor of the long-term contract for David Njoku, it is because of the production. It doesn't match it. But take a look at this. It's really interesting. Deshaun Watson, in his career, has thrown 104 career touchdown passes during the regular season. 21 of them have come to the tight ends. So that's a guy that utilizes tight ends, uses them deep seams, those kind of things. When you look at David Njoku, he has all the physical skills. I think this is, again, Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry saying, the right quarterback, he is a weapon and he is a mismatch, and we will be able to use him.
You know what? Yes, absolutely. And I've been saying this for a long, long time, that David Njoku is an 8-touchdown-a-year tight end. And I actually think he could reach that this year, especially if Deshaun Watson plays not all 17 games. If Deshaun Watson plays most of those 17 games, we don't know what the suspension is going to be yet, but if he plays most of them, then I do think that that David Njoku is capable of having that kind of production. And I think he can double what he's done so far. As you mentioned, Deshaun Watson utilizes his tight ends, and we know that Kevin Stefanski really believes in the tight end position, and David has gotten better and better over the years. So it's time for him now to go out there and to prove that he is one of the best in the NFL. He's getting paid like it.
Now, the other thing, you wrote an article about Kareem Hunt and kind of the way the Browns view him. Take us through that and just the thought behind how they will utilize Kareem Hunt this season.
Well, I do think that Kareem Hunt is part of the Browns' plans. I'm pretty confident that, unless something really changes between now and the start of the season, I really do think that, that he is in the plans and will have a key role. And I think that he probably will be used more in the passing game this year. He wasn't very healthy last year. He missed most of the season. So I think that, you probably will see more of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb together on the field at the same time. And some of that, of course, will be Kareem Hunt being, split out wide in the slot or, other things. So yeah, I think he can be used in many different ways, even some fullback, some H-back. There's a lot of things that you can do with Kareem, and I think they will take full advantage this year.
Another guy that kind of was beat up most, if not all, of last year is Jack Conklin, coming off surgery to repair the torn patella. Progressing as expected, maybe still a little ahead of schedule. I know, again, you've written about this. Where's Jack Conklin at?
Well, originally at the Senior Bowl in January, I guess it was, at the Senior Bowl, when I ran into his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, he said that he was ahead of schedule and would be ready to go by training camp. And I still believe that's true. Now, he hasn't been out there for OTA, so he still is rehabbing. And when he does show up at the start of training camp, he might be limited in the early going. I doubt that we will see him at all or much during mandatory mini camp in a couple of weeks. But when it comes time for training camp, he should be out there practicing to a certain extent. Now, he's probably not going to be 100% full go from day one, but as he moves through training camp, he should be able to have more and more practice time. And then they just kind of have to monitor it and see how it goes. But as of right now, he is on pace to start the season. That's, of course, what they're hoping happens. And they'll know more as time goes along. And
that's a guy that the Browns, I think we underestimate how much they missed those two tackles because Jedrick Wills was kind of out at the same time for much of the season. Yeah, absolutely. And that's an area to really keep an eye on for this year, because they need Jed Wills to step up his game coming off an injured ankle for much of last year. And then they need Jack Conklin to come back and be really strong. Behind them, they have Chris Hubbard, who is back this year from a torn triceps. And then you've got James Hudson going into his second season. So they should be better in terms of the backup tackles and the swing tackles, but they really need those two guys to come through for them on the outside. Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a timeout. Other side of the break, we head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, a question about Deshaun Watson. We'll also dive into the Browns wide receiving room. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Time for us to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Deshaun Watson and what happens with that suspension.
Hey, gang. I'm just calling and giving my 2 cents. I think that the Deshaun Watson thing will be at least 12 games, if not a full year. This thing's been going on for 2 years, and hearing it's going to be 6 to 4 games. That's not going to happen. The NFL's they're going to lay down the law on Deshaun. And talking about a Super Bowl roster, we got a great roster, but with a backup quarterback in Jacoby Brissett, he's obviously not Deshaun Watson. I mean, we're looking at 8-9 and 9-8 or 7-9, perhaps, just like it was last year. So it's going to be up to the NFL, but I don't see a 4 or 6 game suspension happening anytime soon. Thanks for taking my call. Bye.
As always, we appreciate all of the voicemails. Mary Kay, I don't really have a sense. I'm all over the place. Ask me the day, and it probably changes how long I think the suspension is going to be as I read things and compare things. But the one point I want to make, Browns were 8-9 with, in Baker. This isn't a knock on Baker Mayfield. The quarterback play last year was inconsistent and it was bad. Jacoby Brissett, if you're comparing him to the quarterback play that you got a season ago, is an upgrade because he's more consistent. Kevin Stefanski can game plan and know more what he's going to get. I think the thing to remember is the quarterback play was below par, and it came kind of out of nowhere last year. They were expecting a lot more.
Yeah, they were, and some of it had to do with the injury. We don't know exactly how much, and we might not know that for a long time until we see Baker Mayfield play again in another situation. But as you mentioned, and the other thing about this, I think, is the fact that there were a lot of other extenuating circumstances that led to some of the offense's woes last season, including the fact that Kareem Hunt missed most of the season. Jarvis Landry was injured for most of the season. Odell Beckham Jr. left in the middle of the season. Jack Conklin missed most of the season. And Jed Wills was very hurt. So it just was not what anybody was expecting. And I don't think it can all be placed on Baker's shoulders. And therefore, I do think that when he does end up with a new team at some point, if the team is any good, he will probably be better than he was last year for all of those reasons I just mentioned. So, yes, I think Jacoby Brissett will have a chance to win more games and have an easier time of it than Baker did last year, as long as he's healthy too.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'm with you. I think Baker Mayfield will end up playing wherever he lands. He'll end up playing in the NFL for quite a few years. This is from Albert Breer on the timeline for the Deshaun Watson suspension. And NFL talked to more than half of the 22 accusers and deposed all of them. That leaves the June 30th deadline for pretrial discovery as an important date to watch in this case. Albert Breer's understanding, the league is likely to wait until June 30th has passed, allowing for the most information possible to be produced in court proceedings before they make a decision on any suspension. And when you read that, Mary Kay, that makes sense. That I understand that line of thinking. Do you?
Yeah, and we've been saying, and when I talked to Deshaun's lawyer 2 Fridays ago, he mentioned that the NFL would like to at least come up with their initial determination of something sometime in June or July. Now, I later heard him amend that a little bit to include August, but he expects it to happen before the season, that they will hand down their initial ruling sometime before then, and then it's up to Deshaun and his camp to decide whether or not they're going to appeal, and that gives them a little bit of time for that to still sort of prepare for what's coming during the season.
So the other thing that we've talked about at length, the number 2 or another veteran wide receiver. I don't necessarily say number 2. Now, over the weekend, it came out that T.Y. Hilton is talking to a couple of other teams other than the Colts. But I know you've written an article. Is there a veteran that's on the Browns' radar? Will Fuller, T.Y. Hilton, any of the guys that we have talked about? Are they on the Browns' radar at all?
Not right now. I don't believe that they are. As you mentioned, there was a report in The Athletic that 2 other teams besides the Colts had fruitful discussions for the services of T.Y. Hilton, the Colts receiver. But the Browns are not one of those teams. They have not been in the mix for him. And as of right now, Will Fuller is not front burner for them. I think the only way that Will Fuller would get done and would come to Cleveland is if at some point Deshaun Watson goes to the Cleveland Browns and says, I really want Will Fuller on this team. And if he does that, and if he really feels that way and feels that it will help, then I think they would at least give it some consideration, because Deshaun will know if he needs somebody like that. So, yeah, I think that's where it stands. And as for anybody else, I just don't see anything else front burner right now.
Is it a matter of they want to get a look, especially at guys like Donovan Peoples-Jones, Anthony Schwartz? If you're bringing in veterans, you're likely taking reps away from one of those guys that DPJ showed some flashes, and I know they think highly of Anthony Schwartz.
Yeah, I think that that's some of it. They've got David Bell, their 3rd-round pick. They've got Donovan Peoples-Jones. They've got Anthony Schwartz. They want to give all those guys opportunities. They think that they will all fare very well with Deshaun Watson throwing them the ball. These are other reasons why I think they believe that Deshaun Watson is going to play a lot of games this year. They're behaving like a team that thinks it's going to have its elite quarterback on hand. But then, the other thing is that they are thinking globally about their pass catching situation. And it's not just receivers that they're looking at. When they think about their pass catchers, they add in there David Njoku, who will probably have the 2nd most targets on the team behind Amari Cooper. And then same thing with Harrison Bryant. He's another downfield threat for them. So they've got a lot of guys that can get the job done and create mismatches and do different things. And I just don't think that they want to go out and sign a number 2 receiver per se for the sake of doing so.
Yeah, when you think of it in terms of that, the extension to David Njoku is kind of drives home the fact they're probably not looking for another veteran. They feel like they have it in-house. All right, before we take a quick break, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about some of the weapons that the Browns have on offense this year.
Hey, it's Cherokee Ray here. One of the 100 that first started barking when the Pound started against Houston Oilers and their great quarterback. Hey, Nick Chubb is the Herschel Walker, and Amari Cooper is going to be as dependable as Ozzie Newsome. And so many players that we have this year correlate with the greats of the game. I think the Browns are going to be very, very, very good. Go Browns. My question is, do you think that these guys that are going to be able to last, like some of the guys I mentioned, that 4 to 8 year long career? Thank you. Bye.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. What do you think, Mary Kay?
Well, I think that they have a good young core of players on the team right now in the prime of their careers. Running backs, usually those guys, they don't last forever. So you do have to keep funneling them through. You do have to keep adding to the pile. That's why they went out and drafted a Jerome Ford. That's why they got Demetric Felton last year. So They are bringing along some younger guys. I mean, it's not going to be forever that Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are here. In fact, I mean, who knows how this is going to go? Kareem Hunt could possibly be gone after this season. If they don't extend him and he plays out the final year of his contract, there's a chance he will hit the open market. And a lot of times in those situations, players end up moving on after that, the way that Jarvis did this year. So, you know, hopefully they get the most out of those two guys together this year, because you just never really know what the future holds for them. But certainly they keep each other fresh, and not just for the fourth quarter, but also for the 17th game. So it's good to have the duo.
Before we go to break, we've talked about it a lot. This roster is young and it's really talented. I mean, they've got guys on long-term deals that are ascending, that are pretty elite.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why you go out and you extend a guy like a Wyatt Teller and a Denzel Ward. And, you know, that's what's happening right now. This team was built to win now, basically. And that's why they did what they did with the quarterback situation, because, you know, Myles Garrett's not going to be in the prime of his career forever. There is a shortish sort of shelf life for guys like that. So, you know, 4 years down the road, you know, he might not be getting the 16, 17 sacks he's capable of now. Same thing with Denzel Ward. You want to capture the moment right now. You have to seize this moment where you've got your core group of players in the peak of their careers and, you know, aiming to get to that Super Bowl. Mary
Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a time out. Other side of the break, turn our attention to the defense. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Thanks for buying a fishing license. I want you to picture all the great things this simple purchase does. Like building public boat ramps, keeping local waters clean, and maintaining a healthy fish population.
What's Mom doing?
When you buy a fishing license, you do a lot. Every dollar protects and maintains your local waterways for future generations to enjoy. Visit takemefishing.org.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot. This is from the Varsity House podcast. It's hosted by Sean Crawford, a local guy that played at Notre Dame. Greg Newsome, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah were on this podcast talking about the young guys and team chemistry with the Browns.
Because I know we talked a little bit. Y'all are a pretty young team, so y'all can hang out and do things together. Is that something y'all do?
Oh, yeah. Especially when we first came in.
Man, it's weird, though, because, like, I hear a bunch of stories. Like, you even just heard Tannehill saying, like, oh, I'm not going to mentor.
I saw you comment on that, yeah.
Like, just stuff like that. But, like, here is I'm telling you, it's weird. I've heard either other people got drafted who, like, Vest was giving them the wrong play, telling them the wrong thing to do so he'd keep his spot. But, like, here, everybody is, like, it felt like college.
Okay.
Like, literally, like, me and Greedy, obviously, everybody knew me and Greedy were the two who was fighting for the, you know, I got drafted first round, he got drafted second round like 2 years before that. So me and him were the ones that were fighting the most. But he was one of the guys that was helping me the most.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's like a healthy competition. And, like, it really feels like a brotherhood. Like, our rookie class, we came in, like, locked in.
Well,
like, it was like we knew each other we just played on the same college team for the last 4 years.
And it started to work out. You know, Larry, he was talking about how, like, you know, this is the best rookie class. What he said?
He said it was the best rookie. Like, we came in with energy, we competing, we laughing, having fun, but we always making sure, you know, we get our work in at the end of the day. But, like, we all, it's weird. It really feel like college. Like, even the new people coming in, Deshaun and some of the new faces we have, like, they just come right in.
They right in.
And it feels the exact same.
And Mary Kay, they've been focusing on chemistry, so it's really good to hear. Those are guys that'll be in their second year now, talking about that chemistry.
Yeah, and those guys are living up to their vow to step up even into more of a leadership role, even though they're so young. They're only heading into their second seasons. But I had a nice one-on-one phone conversation with Greg Newsome about 2 weeks ago, and he couldn't wait to mentor Martin Emerson. I mean, he was so excited about that, about passing down that wisdom and showing him everything. So it's not just lip service. He really means that. And that is so true that Greedy did that for him as well. Greedy did a fabulous job with that, even though that he knew that they drafted Greg to come in and basically replace him as the starting cornerback there opposite Denzel. So that's what these guys are all about, and it works out well for all of them. There will be plenty of playing time for a good cornerback. They never have to worry about that. But these are good young guys. I mean, this regime is adding a lot of really cool young players onto the football team. Now, of course, when I say that, I'm sure I'll get some pushback and people will, talk about the whole Deshaun Watson situation. But from a personality standpoint, the players that they are drafting are really, really just upbeat guys. And I'm not saying that Deshaun's not that. I just don't want to make it seem like, character is king, because for obvious reasons, then people will, will bring that part of it up. So we all know that everybody has to work through that very, very difficult situation. But aside from that, for purposes of this discussion, when Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and this regime, when they draft guys, you're seeing the Greg Newsomes and the JOKs on this football team. And they're going to be guys that this team can be proud of for a long time. Yeah,
and Perion Winfrey comes to mind, Cade York, even the rookies this year have all handled themselves really well in the early going. This is also kind of interesting, right along those lines. NFL.com's most underappreciated player for each and every team for the Browns, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Computer vision shows his win share stopping the run on passing downs is balanced. He ranked in the top 10 in both categories among rookie defenders in 2021. And keep in mind, they point that out, Mary Kay, because the knock against him was he was undersized and kind of a hybrid. Well, he can play the run, so it doesn't matter what size you are if you're winning in the run game.
Yeah, and they've only just kind of scratched the surface with JOK. So, so good for him that, heading into his second year, he knows what's going on now. He had a very difficult year in many, many, many ways. He had a very difficult year as a rookie. So hopefully things will settle down for him a little bit as he moves forward, and he can, really, pick it up and get even better in his second year. So there, again, Joe Woods, he can do so many different things with JOK with the versatility that he has, and I really don't even think he's scratched the surface.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. He was fun to watch, and when you saw him, you wanted to see more of him on the field. This one's kind of fun as well. So this is from the NFL on CBS, a tweet. Jadeveon Clowney on why he decided to re-sign with the Browns, and that's a quote, "Just wanted to chase that Super Bowl." So it's a great reason to have him, for him to sign with the Browns, is that kind of mindset.
Yeah, and I think he pretty much talked about that last year too. He knew that he was signing with a team last year that had an opportunity to win games, and that's important to him. He wants a lot of different things, but that's, of course, on the list. We haven't had as much Super Bowl talk, although Greg Newsome did talk about the Super Bowl and wanting to win the Super Bowl this year and how that is their number one goal. But I actually kind of think we'll hear those words a little bit less than we have in the past. And we did hear them to a certain extent last year as well. But, I think that this crew is going to be all about, doing the work and really putting their heads down, and reminding themselves that they haven't accomplished anything yet, and that a strong team on paper is only just that, on paper.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, let's take a look at this tweet. And again, it's about Njoku, and you had already said you weren't seeing that. So Browns have pulled back is what they're saying. You said you couldn't see that when we talked to you last time. The Buccaneers and the Raiders still on Njoku. And on the other side of that, Akeem Hicks has signed a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it would appear that Njoku's market is shrinking rapidly. And Hicks, $10 million. I don't think the Browns were going to do that for a defensive tackle.
No, I mean, there are certain positions right now where they are willing to not be as strong as they are at other positions. Defensive tackle is one. And again, I think number 2 wide receiver is another. They're going to fortify certain spots that they feel are more premium positions and let other ones go just a little bit. I never got the sense that they were in on Njoku. So I kind of threw some water on that a while ago. I don't believe that they were one of the teams that was really in the hunt for him. So yeah, I think that they're pretty willing to go forward with what they have, and of course they'll keep their eyes open, but that's about the situation for them at tackle right now.
Before we go to break, I'm going to ask you about another article that you wrote. It was about Andrew Berry not cutting Baker Mayfield. Take us through that and kind of what you have found in the thought process as far as Baker Mayfield goes.
Yeah, they just don't have any plans to do that. It doesn't really make sense to do that, especially because if you hang on to him all the way up, especially through the trade deadline, you can find a team that might need a starting quarterback because their starter goes down with a serious injury, perhaps even a season-ending injury. And that team could be a team that was planning to try to go to the Super Bowl this year. So in the event that happens, lo and behold, the Browns would have someone to offer. So it just doesn't make sense to cut him right now. There's no reason to do that. They have the space for him on the cap, and even if they did cut him, it doesn't change their cap situation. It's fully guaranteed money. So it doesn't, it's no loss to them to hang on to him for as long as they can until they find a good deal.
Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, and cleveland.com and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason about this year's team. We'll also take a look at some of the guaranteed contracts on the books for the Browns. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. We're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about a couple of the veterans the Browns let go.
Hey, Dave. Yes, my name is Cassius. I'm a first-time caller. lifelong Cleveland Browns fan. I just want to ask you this question. Maybe you can consider this. I think the Cleveland Browns moved on from J.C. Tretter because he encouraged a lot of the players not to show up during the pandemic or basically for the early OTAs. So he encouraged the veterans not to show up. And I think the Cleveland Browns didn't like that. And as you see this year, they have a better turnout. I also think that they were inclined to get rid of Jarvis Landry, not just because of his salary, but certainly that, but more so because he was tied into Odell Beckham. And so therefore, I think they just wanted to start all the way over. Thank you for taking my call.
As always, we appreciate all of the voicemails. I don't think Jarvis's relationship with Odell had anything to do with why they let him go. The other one, Mary Kay, maybe a little bit. I don't think they would overtly say that, but I'm sure they weren't happy that they didn't have the OTA turnout that they would have liked that some of the other teams did.
Well, that's true. And I do think that it probably, was a factor. Last year, they did not have their offensive guys showing up here for large chunks of the offseason program. And J.C. Tretter spearheaded that. So, it's one thing to call it voluntary. It's another thing to have a player on your football team really discouraging players from showing up and urging them not to. And I do think that, perhaps, it could have something to do with the fact that another team hasn't picked him up yet because maybe they're worried that the same thing would happen to them. So, like I said, I do know that the Browns are extremely happy to have as many guys in the offseason program now as they do. And even though, again, as you mentioned, nobody would ever say that publicly or admit it, it could have been somewhat of a factor.
And do you think there's anything at all to the thought that, Jarvis's relationship with Odell had? I just don't see that, but I could be wrong. What are your thoughts on that one?
Not so much Odell, but I do think that, it got to a certain point where it was time for change. Okay. So Jarvis, was part of the Baker, Jarvis, Odell, that kind of group, and other guys were too. I mean, David Njoku was part of that, era, but I think it was time really to have sort of a new vibe or a new voice, a new leader in the wide receiver room. And I think maybe they wanted to let Amari Cooper be that for him and let guys sort of follow Amari Cooper's lead. And, Jarvis, he's tremendous. He's a great leader. He's got a great booming presence. But I do think that, that may have been a little part of it, that they wanted just sort of, a new energy in their wide receiver room.
Yeah, that's fair enough. This is kind of interesting as well. This is from Jake Trotter from ESPN. Browns are now the only team in the NFL to have a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end that all rank in the top 7 at their position group in guaranteed money. That's from ESPN Stats Info. Again, Mary Kay, the salary cap's going up. It's going to keep going up because it's based on a percentage of revenues for the league. There's going to be sports wagering that comes into it at some point in time. I think they're ahead of the curve. I have more confidence in the way the salary cap is managed by this front office than pretty much anything else that goes on.
Yeah, well, and rightfully so. These guys are brilliant. They know exactly what they're doing when it comes to that sort of thing. And, they may be the best in the NFL at cap management. We'll see how that goes over the next few years. But when it comes to guaranteed money, as you mentioned, they were the first in the NFL to fully guarantee that contract for a quarterback like that $230 million fully guaranteed for Deshaun Watson. And it raised some eyebrows because now other teams know that that's where the bar is set. But somebody was going to do it. And like you said, the Browns are ahead of the curve in that regard. And here they are sort of, setting the bar.
Yeah, and the last thing in the world you want to do with something like the salary cap is be behind the curve and playing catch up. That's how you end up having to cut players that you don't want to. This is also interesting. This is from 33rdteam.com. Those are former NFL executives, Joe Banner among them. Who will win Comeback Player of the Year this season? One of the guys, Deshaun Watson. So they have Jameis Winston, Derrick Henry, I'm not sure what he's coming back from, Christian McCaffrey, and Deshaun Watson. You see the delineation of what Watson has done. And if he plays enough games, I wouldn't be surprised if he's, right in there for Comeback Player of the Year.
Well, maybe so, but, I think that almost seems to be reserved for a player coming off of a serious injury. I don't know if we'll have to see what the climate feels like as everyone moves forward here. But I don't know if the vibe would be right, for him to be considered that formally. But certainly, if he does make it back out there and leads this team to the Super Bowl, it will be an incredible story.
Yeah, and that's a fair point as far as the public relations side of something like that as well. All right, before I let you go, we're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason one last time. It's about the Browns roster.
Dave, I would like to give my opinion on the present atmosphere about the upcoming Browns season. Players seem to be unified as a team. Key players have been signed to longer extension, which hopefully translate to longer team success. Fans are excited for a successful season, which hopefully ends with the ultimate goal, Super Bowl. The main structure of the team are now finally in place, so no excuses will be accepted and failure will not be an option. The coaching staff must have all aspects of the team at full go starting with Game 1. Dominance must be the key term used this year. All of the teams in the NFL must fear playing the Browns. Only then will we get the respect as a quality NFL franchise.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Mary Kay, that's always the goal, but the season happens,
Yes, absolutely. But the energy is so good out there. You saw that I asked and wrote about the fact that there's a basketball court in the middle of the football field to try to foster some of that camaraderie and some of those good feelings. And, they're trying to keep everything really super upbeat and happy for this year, even though they have some challenging situations going on.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. As always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks, Mary Kay.
Thanks for having me.
Mary Kay Cabot, make sure you read her pages of the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily. We continue talking Browns. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Deshaun Watson and possible suspension.
Hi, this is Ken from Snellville, Georgia, a Browns fan from when they drafted Jimmy Brown and Ernie Davis. My question is, if all these rumors about a big suspension for Deshaun Watson come true, what do the Browns look like without Deshaun Watson for the entire season? Thank you.
Well, that's a good question. Let's welcome in Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily. And Eddie, I mean, Jacoby Brissett has started. He would not have started with nearly the talent that will be around him. He's a really good backup quarterback. But if you have to rely on him for 17 games, yeah, that's a little rough.
Yeah, that's a tough ask of anyone in that situation. You know, you trade for the star elite quarterback, and then he might not be playing this year. He might miss half the season. We don't know. We won't know for, another month or so, a little month or change, as Mary Kay talked about earlier in the show. What they look like, they're still a serviceable team. Brissett last year was okay for the Dolphins, and that wasn't even nearly as good as a roster as what the Browns have. They still have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They still have an elite offensive line. They do have some playmakers that he can get the ball to, and there's the cat again.
That's
and
all
right. Kevin Stefanski, she loves the spotlight, but in Kevin Stefanski's offense, he can she wants to talk about Deshaun Watson too. He can put Brissett in positions to win. And, make short passes, intermediate passes that don't need to be, long. He doesn't have to go out and throw for 400 a game like we expect Deshaun Watson will probably do with this team.
Well, the other thing is fans are comparing Baker Mayfield to Deshaun Watson. Compare what Baker Mayfield was last year to Jacoby Brissett. I mean, compare what he was last year to Jacoby Brissett. And I think Jacoby Brissett is better. He should give you better quarterback play than you had a year ago, and you were 8-9 a year ago. That would be how I would answer that.
Yeah, especially because Baker was hurt last year, and that played into him playing inconsistent. There was all sorts of drama and turmoil inside the locker room. But Brissett, he was in Miami. He started, I want to say it was 5 games in place of Tua, but he did well. It's not like they were world beaters anyway, but if you put Jacoby Brissett, healthy Brissett, on the team last year, it's probably going to be around the same results, 8-9, maybe 7-10, maybe 9-8 if you're lucky. But last year, I don't think actually it probably would have been less. Probably would have been 7 or 6, just because of how many injuries that the Browns had and tried to overcome.
Yeah, but the thing is the quarterback play last year was not what you would expect from Baker Mayfield. I think it'll be better with Jacoby Brissett if they need to do that. This is also kind of interesting. So stats that might surprise you about Deshaun Watson. We took these from Dog Pound Daily, and we're going to go through. There's 10 of them. We're not going to use all 10 of them today. We'll use them throughout the course of a couple of weeks. So he has a 7-14 record when throwing for over 300 yards. If we look at another one, he's rushed for 17 touchdowns and almost 1,700 yards. And we'll go one more, and we'll talk about him. He has thrown for 104 touchdowns, and he's thrown for 39 fourth-quarter touchdowns. Let's start with that first. That was one of the knocks, and I think a legitimate knock against Baker Mayfield is fourth quarter he didn't get it done. Deshaun Watson gets it done in the fourth quarter, and those numbers speak to that.
Absolutely, and that was the biggest thing last year for Baker. He had so many chances to win games for the Browns late, whether that was putting them in a position to be up in points, go ahead in points, or to solidify. They'd be up, 3 to 5 points, and they could have drove down the field and got a touchdown. And that obviously wasn't the case a lot of the time, and that was his biggest knock, or one of his biggest knocks. But with Watson, 39 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, that's highly impressive. That is a lot in a 4. He's been in the league 5 years, but he's only played 4. Obviously, he sat out last year. That's a lot, and that's a huge number for something that the Browns hope that he can replicate, in Cleveland for however long he's here, at least the next 5 years.
And that's, fourth quarter is where quarterbacks make their reputation. The other thing, 17 rushing touchdowns, so that's a testament to his threat You know, if you're going to play man and they're going to run you out and he's going to take off. The other thing is you have to cover that 11th guy inside the 20-yard line in the quote-unquote red zone.
Right, and there's been some talk that they might run some sort of pistol formation a few different times this year with Watson, Chubb, and Hunt on either side of him. That'd be fantastic because you have a threat of either one of them running, and then you have a threat of either one of the running backs catching out of the backfield. And then if none of that happens, then Deshaun can take off. So I like how that could be. I don't think we'll see that a lot, but I think that's something that they'll explore, especially with how Watson can beat the defense several different ways.
The other record, 7-14 in games where he throws over 300 yards. Has never had a really elite running game, especially the last couple of years. So you're falling behind early. You have to throw. That's why you rack up yardage. It's kind of that, I don't want to say meaningless, but it's that misleading passing yardage.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why wins and losses aren't quarterback stats. But shout out to John Suchan. He's the author of this article that we're talking about. He's a real workhorse for us and does a tremendous job. But yeah, 4-12, he is, or 7-14 with the 300+ passing yards. But like you said, look at his team. He was down a lot in those games. He was, trying to make something happen. He brought them back a lot of times and had them in position to sometimes win, not always, but he did his part. No, but like the 7-14, I think that changed, and that's not necessarily on him because, like we just said, you're catching up in yardage. You're trying to get points instead of you have to get big chunks of yards to get points. I think that'll be a better record, even though that's not a quarterback stat. Wins and losses aren't that for that reason we just said. But I think we're going to see that flipped with Cleveland because he'll be a guy that can finally get it done for us.
All right, this is also from Dog Pound Daily. 3 underrated moves in the 2022 offseason. Re-signing Chris Hubbard is number 3. Drafting Perion Winfrey, number 2. Trading for Chase Winovich, number 1. And Eddie, I'm all in on the Chris Hubbard one being an underrated one. I think people tend to forget that's your swing tackle. They missed him pretty much all of last year. That's why you had a lot of the trouble you had at the tackle position.
I love this too, and Greg Newland, he's the author of this. He does a tremendous job for us too. I think him and John are like our Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, honestly, the work they put in. I just wanted to put that in there. But yeah, Hubbard is one that when I read this morning, I was like, oh, I might have had number 1 maybe as an underrated move. But yeah, you said we missed him last year. The swing tackle, he can come in and play, and he has increased his play. But he's been battling injuries. But I think this year he might get more of a role to play some more snaps, and I think he's going to take full advantage. I love that re-signing of him.
And Winfrey is a guy that a lot of people thought the Browns would take a round, maybe even 2 rounds earlier than they got him.
Yeah, I have it written here. I love that even more than I love the Chris Hubbard thing after I was thinking about it because he's one of those guys that's just infectious. We've talked about him a couple times on the show, his press conference or whenever he got introduced as a Brown and, when they called him, he's all for it. He's all about being a dog and being in the dog pound and putting the work in beside Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney and his teammate Isaiah Thomas, Alex Wright. It should be fun. I'm real excited to see what he does his rookie year. And I think his energy is going to be infectious.
Last one, Chase Winovich. So they got a guy that can potentially help them. They traded Mack Wilson for him. That was a guy that was probably going to have a tough time making the roster.
Yeah, and we talked about that last week. The Mack Wilson was, a good trade for both parties. The Browns knew that he wasn't consistent enough. Bill Belichick saw something in him. Last year, he didn't use Winovich as he did previous years. He used him more as a linebacker instead of an edge rusher. So I think that gives the Browns some versatility. And I did love this, too, the more I read about him. He's becoming a fan favorite around Cleveland already and on social media. So that's great. And that obviously doesn't factor into wins and losses, but it is nice to have guys to cheer for. But I think Winovich, I think they're going to put him back at the defensive end position at different times and put Jadeveon Clowney on the inside and let them go. And I think that's going to be huge. And then also he can draw back in coverage, something that is useful with some of these tight ends in the league. So I love that move too. Greg nailed all 3 of these.
Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we wrap things up. We'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Talk a little bit about Nick Harris. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Let's get right to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Our Baker Mayfield supporter who's a big Sooner fan.
Hey, this is Mr. Sooner Mayfield again. I just watched Undisputed with Shannon Sharp, the Skip Bayless, and you keep watching everybody saying that they said they wanted an adult to lead the Browns, but nobody is owning up to saying that. Jimmy Haslam isn't owning up to it. Andrew Berry isn't owning up to it. Kevin Stefanski hasn't owned up to it. And now we hear Dick Chubb saying that he's still great friends with Baker and that Baker will be ready to go and that he's just really was impressed with his attitude and intensity. But I think Sooner fans definitely and all good Cleveland Brown fans would like to know, have somebody own up to who said they want an adult in the room. Because also, how much of an adult was Myles Garrett? And I love Myles Garrett, but he takes and hits the guy on the head with his own helmet. And then you got Kareem Hunt, who was suspended when he first came to the Browns. Come on, where is these adults? But I'm telling you right now, everybody, and I mean everybody, better shut the hell up about this adult thing until somebody proves that it was actually said, because right now that is about as detrimental to this situation as anything. And am I upset? You damn right, because somebody has to come forward, or the guy who said that he heard it has to say who it is, or else it isn't believable. And I'll tell you right now, the way it's been and the way it's been hidden, I think somebody concocted it. That's my theory. Goodbye.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. My guess is if it was said, whoever said it regretted saying it and said it out of anger. And I don't think we're ever going to know who said it, if in fact anybody said it. Eddie, your thought?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone said it at all. It might be one of those situations where Baker's camp leaked it just to try and get some leverage in the situation. I don't know. I will never be able to tell you or anyone, and I will never claim to that I know the answer to this. It's been reported that's what said. I don't know who said it. At this point, does it really matter? I don't really think that it's detrimental to the Baker Mayfield situation. Everyone saw how that situation played out over the course of last season and into this offseason. So, it is what it is. If it was Barry or Haslam or Stefanski or anyone in the Browns organization, I doubt they're going to come out and say, yeah, I called him a child. I want an adult here. And that thing with Myles, that was a terrible thing that happened, but it happened and it's over with. I think he's learned from that and moved on. The Kareem Hunt thing was a different situation at a different time. So I get where he's coming from about wanting some resolution, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter because soon Baker will be somewhere else, I'm assuming, and he can start his career over.
Yeah, let's hope he moves on and gets to a better situation. All right, before I let you go, I'm going to refer to an article written by Nate Ulrich from the Akron Beacon Journal. Wyatt Teller saying, Nick Harris is the perfect guy for the job, works hard, believe he's a leader, and when you're a center, you're going to be the voice that's going out and the one that everybody on the line is going to hear. Right man, perfect man for the job, truly believe that. So that's good praise for a guy that the Browns need to step into a pretty important role. Center calls all the offensive blocking schemes and really has to be the leader of that offensive line that's expected to be a strength of this team.
Absolutely, and I love that it was Teller who came out and said this, and he's one of the leaders of that offensive line. He's been there for a few years. I love this. I love that Nick Harris is finally getting his chance to start. He has big shoes to fill in J.C. Tretter, but I think he can do that. And another thing that a lot of people overlook, and I was talking about this on a show this past weekend, Nick Harris has been the starting center in practice for the past 2 years because Treader just doesn't practice really. He's one of those veterans that, hey, I don't feel like practicing, so I'm not. I'll do it 1 or 2 days a week, and that's it. So Harris has been the starter. So now he gets to prep to be the starter in actual games and not just for practice. And, I think that's going to help a lot. I think him being around and doing that for the past 2 years is going to be very, very beneficial for the Browns this year.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Eddie McDonald, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Eddie.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Eddie McDonald, make sure you read him. Dog Pound Daily. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Scheduled guest, Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Casey Kinnaman from Dog Pound Daily. That's tomorrow at 4, Sports4CLE. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.